I'm Steven Sigmund.
And I'm Mike Lucidio.
And this is the Weekly Movie Throwdown, a discussion show where each week we dig into a film that fits our overall monthly theme. It's a new month, so we're starting a new theme. Fall is upon us, and football season is here, so we're going to tell you some stories about the gridiron and kind of some off-the-beaten-path films, which I really like, because I don't really like football all that much. So it'll be fun to look at stories that aren't usually covered on podcasts. And we're going to start with one that I actually do really like, The Program from David S. Ward from 1993. One of the few college football films. So it'll be fun to talk about some of the poignancy of that. Before we do, though, a little news.
So this is probably personal just to me, but something I stumbled onto. And I'm kind of shocked and annoyed by this. That I read an article about Shane Black putting out a new movie next month. Like, it's coming out in October through Amazon.
Whoa.
He's making a movie called Play Dirty, which is based on the Parker books. If you remember, favorite of the pod, Jason Statham made a Parker movie like back in 2013.
Oh yeah.
But that's based on a whole book series by Donald Westlake, which is pretty popular. Shane Black was a huge fan of that. He got the opportunity to make another movie based on Parker, and that's what this is. It's like the second book in the Parker series. But it stars Mark Wahlberg is in it. Lakeith Stanfield's in it. I mean, good cast. It's Shane Black. I had no idea this existed or was coming out in any way. I stumbled on an article in Esquire that mentions it, that it's coming out. And that's the first I've heard of it.
Wow.
I'm just kind of shocked. And you didn't hear about it either. So it's like, I'm really, I don't know what this says about anything, about the distribution of things, about how information gets out, but I don't know how a Shane Black movie, makes not even a ripple in the information ecosystem. It just happens to be an article in Esquire, not even in the Hollywood Reporter or something that's tracking movies.
That's pretty wild. I assume this won't have a theatrical run, right?
Doesn't seem that way. It's coming out the first week of October directly on Amazon, looks like.
Is he directing as well as writing?
Yeah, he wrote and directed it, yeah. Wow. It's his first movie that he's writing and directing, and it's been like 7 years.
Yeah. What was the last one, The Nice Guys?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and straight to Amazon. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I mean, it's got Tony Shalhoub in it. Keegan-Michael Key is in it. It's got a good cast. And I saw the trailer. The trailer's out. It looks like a Shane Black movie, which means I'm all in. So
I assume it's set at Christmas.
It is. It's definitely set at Christmas.
Man, that is fascinating. Why do that?
Yeah,
but
and again, we talk about this. Yeah, we talk about this all the time, where it's kind of like, I guess you trade the work that you want to do for getting it dropped in this netherworld of streaming, because I'm sure that he wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to make this movie unless Amazon gave it to him. So he jumped at it, but yet, the distribution is probably not what he wants, and just kind of drops in the streaming service. Hopefully people will find it. Probably
a bigger budget than he's used to, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's probably true. Well, I mean, he did do Iron Man 3, so, but yeah.
That's true.
But in general, yeah, that's fair. Wow. Yeah, a lot of connections to what we're talking about, because I'll end up mentioning Shane Black briefly later when we get into the program. But the other thing, and this is also Amazon related, that I wanted to talk about. So Amazon is being sued in like a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
And this is right on the heels of us having Physical Media Month. And I think it's important to talk about, where people were finding out that the movies they were buying through Amazon, they're not actually buying at all. What you're actually buying is a license to watch the movie, not the movie itself. So they're discovering that if Amazon loses the licensing rights to that movie disappears and you don't actually own it, which, not surprisingly, is making people upset. And so they're actually suing Amazon over this, what they call a bait and switch. But again, this is what you and I have been talking about forever, that this illusion of buying digital things it doesn't necessarily mean anything, because if it's not physical, people can take it away from you for any reason, for licensing reasons, for censorship reasons, for anything.
Yeah.
And I guess people are coming around to the fact that that's basically what's happening with Amazon. So people are upset about it. Be curious to see whether or not this lawsuit actually works.
Yeah, me too, especially because most of my physical media buying budget comes from attaching myself to class action lawsuits and getting settlements. I don't know if you know about this, but it's like a
I
thing you
didn't.
can do.
What? I didn't realize that
Yeah.
you were doing this.
I got like $200 this week from a class action settlement from the call map because I used it. Basically, what happens is everybody gives your information illegally to Facebook. And so a class action lawsuit comes from it. And if you you get a data breach notification in your email or like in the mail, or like there are lawyers who this is just their thing. So you can sign up for like any class action lawsuit they're litigating, and then they take a huge chunk of it. And I mean, it's usually like a couple dollars. I mean, it depends on the company, but yeah, I got a $200 check this week, and I'll be buying some physical media with that. So like, it would be ironic if Amazon paid me from a class action lawsuit, and then I went and bought physical media.
I
That
feel
would
like
be
there's
crazy.
absolutely a movie character whose sole source of income is from class action lawsuits. I'm surprised that
Yeah.
hasn't been done yet. That feels like a missed opportunity.
What do you remember in Knocked Up, Seth Rogen's character like didn't have a job because he was run over. His foot was run over by a mail truck, and
I
he was
do
like
remember.
living off of that.
Well,
That's me.
that's
Yeah,
an older trope. The settlement with a company for getting injured or something like that.
yeah.
But just class action lawsuits for whatever that you just happen to find and jump onto. That's a whole other thing.
And it's like every company because somehow they're either
Well,
hacked
yeah,
or
exactly. Because
they,
every single day your information is being stolen. So yeah.
yeah.
Uh
So why
huh.
not be compensated?
That's fair.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
How many DVDs is your privacy worth? I guess that's the question.
I mean, you're going to lose your privacy either way, so you might as well get on that money train to make a little back, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy though, but believe me, I've already looked into the Amazon lawsuit. How can I get a part of this?
uh,
If they want to pay me in DVDs or Blu-rays, I'm okay with it. Like just
yeah.
send a box my way, and I mean, it's gonna hopefully not through them, but it's gonna go to DVDs and Blu-rays anyway. So yeah, that's interesting. And I try not to buy things through Amazon, like digital stuff in particular, because of this. I mean, it's always seemed like a concern, and you never know with them. But I do have a couple films that I ended up buying through them, so it'll be interesting to see if like they go away or not. But if I'm remembering correctly, the two that I ended up buying through Amazon were Niagara and Bad Day at Black Rock. So I don't know if like movies from the 50s are going to lose their license anytime soon, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. It's something worth following to see what happens with this. And, are
Yeah,
other streamers going to be the same way? I guess you like YouTube. I guess you buy things through YouTube. I don't know.
right. This whole thing, and I don't mean to sound like a luddite or whatever, but it's like it just feel like all of these things, these illusions that we had about this digital era are kind of coming home to roost right now. That
Yeah.
we're finding that we've given ourselves wholly to this whole digital ecosystem, which we're finding out isn't necessarily profitable. We're finding out that it's not what we thought it was. It turns out that we're going to end up needing a cable bundle anyway. It's like all these things that we thought are turning out to all be false. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these streamers are basically becoming a cable bundle. So it's like
sure.
for a
And
few
yeah,
years we
the
had
word just
that.
came out that Peacock is actually selling bundling rights to Amazon as well. That you're going to be able to buy it through the Amazon Prime.
Hmm.
And Peacock was kind of the last holdout, but I think after they lost wrestling to the ESPN app, I think that they're basically in danger of disappearing. So they're trying to do whatever they can to stay uh, viable. So I think that now
Yeah.
they're searching for bundling partners, and they just jumped on with Amazon. So
I saw this week Apple raised their Apple Plus price
Yeah,
$2.
25%. It's up to
What the
it's yeah.
hell?
It went from $9.99 to $12.99. That's a pretty big jump.
I looked at my charges that I'm paying for streaming, and it's like way more than cable at this point because they just all keep going up. It's astronomical.
Yeah.
So I need to jump ship on a
Luckily,
few of them.
I got grandfathered into a couple of them, which is nice. So
Yeah.
I'm saving a little bit there. But yeah, I actually I dropped Apple for that reason, where it's like unless there's about 4 things on it for a month that I want to see, I'm not just gonna pay for it to pay for it.
Yeah. I know I'm going to drop Paramount as soon as the South Park season's over. That's the only reason I picked it up in the first place, and I don't need to see whatever else they have on there. I'm not a Yellowstone guy, not a Tulsa King guy, so I don't need to pay $10 for that or whatever. But yeah,
Landman, the second season of Landman is coming.
Never seen it. Don't know a thing about it. I assumed Taylor Sheridan did it.
Yeah, it's Tulsa King in the oil business with Billy Bob Thornton.
There you go. Yeah, nothing about that is appealing to me. So Paramount's out the window in like 2 months. All right, what did I have? So this is actually kind of fun for us, I think, if it's done well. The creators of Cobra Kai are going ahead with a Knight Rider movie for Universal, produced by Kelly McCormick and David Leitch of 87 North, which is interesting because, they did The Fall Guy, did Bullet Train, Leitch's Stuntman. I think this has the potential to be something pretty interesting. I don't know if it's going to have that comedy tone like Cobra Kai kind of does, but
I think that you have to. I mean, we're talking about a guy in this talking car. There has to be comedy to it. There's just no way to play it straight in 2025. So
what if Kit is just a big jerk and,
right.
a millennial? If Kit's a millennial and is like triggered by everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could play it with Kit being very annoying. So we'll see what they come up with. But yeah, I think it's funny to see that they found a niche of basically bringing back 80s properties and redoing them. That's a pretty good niche to have, but just kind of stumbled into it.
And the comedy aspect works. I mean, we talked about that with the A-Team a little bit, like how that maybe tried to get that comedy but didn't get it. 22 Jump Street, 21 Jump Street, it's from the 90s, but Fall Guy, I think we both liked that and think that had a good tone. So I think if you want to nail this, Kit has to be voiced by Jason Mantzoukas. I think that would be the perfect Kit. Like crazy Mantzoukas telling Michael what to do.
I kind of love that idea. Yeah. The more Jason Mantzoukas, the better. So
I agree. 100%. Maybe Paul Scheer is Michael Knight.
You're right.
I'm in for that. All right. Well, that's it for news. Let's get into our film this week. We're going to talk about The Program. So I kept trying to think of a cool way to segue from last week into this week. And I wanted to say from werewolves to Timberwolves, which I thought would have been wonderful, but I couldn't find a way to do it. And so I'm going to say it now. From werewolves to Timberwolves. This week, we are talking about David S. Ward's college football film from 1993. You'd seen this before, right?
Yeah. Definitely seen it before. And I remembered it. So we're talking about football movies. I mean, the reason it came back to me, so I was looking for something to start with. So 93 was a decent year for sports movies, but also put out one of the most iconic football movies of all time, which is Rudy, which everyone loves. Has seen it. It's heartwarming. It's great. But it's definitely the movie that everybody thinks of when they think of heartwarming football movies. The Program is the total opposite of that. Came out the same year. But it could be said that The Program was really the first truly realistic college football movie that had been made. I think it set a template going forward for how football movies were going to look. Because if you look back to the 80s, I mean, football movies weren't even taken very seriously. I mean, what
Yeah.
Johnny Be Good, if you remember that movie, it came out in the 80s
Very
by
well.
college football, Anthony Michael Hall. So, kind of silly stuff, nothing all that serious. Necessary Roughness came out in 91, which is a movie I love because it's got Robert Loggia in it. Just another one of my favorite Robert Loggia movies. But, good cast, funny. And that's the thing. It was played for laughs, not taking all that seriously. They were playing Iron Man football. So, meaning they were playing, both sides, offense and defense, because they didn't have enough guys to fill a team. So that's its own separate thing. The program is a movie really trying to tackle what college football was like, and particularly in the 90s. And if you go back to that period of time, there's a lot of stuff going on that we were starting to find out about. One was steroid use, was starting to trickle into the mainstream, and there was all the talk about college boosters paying players under the table. There was controversy about recruiting and shady coaches doing things. So this is just stuff that we started hearing more about, and I think the program tries to tackle all of that in one movie. Now, whether or not that's successful is for you to decide. But David Ward really wants to go after it and cover all of these things that are going on in college football. It might be one story too many, but he does try to cram it all in there.
I'm glad you said one story too many, because I have some thoughts on the script for this.
Yeah.
But I think you're very right about it being a 90s film. I mean, this kind of, if you put this in the world of like Pulp Fiction and all of these things that came after Pulp Fiction, it feels gritty and kind of dark like that. And that's not what you usually get from a sports film. It just has all of these things that are hallmarks of the 90s, like drugs, recklessness, kind of an ennui, and it's great, but it doesn't have a 90s ending, which I want to talk about, because I think,
but credit to David Ward as well, though, because obviously he made Major League, which is one of the most iconic baseball movies ever made, and very much feels like an 80s movie. So, I mean, and this movie does not feel like that movie. I mean, he definitely is trying hard to understand the differences between baseball and football, but, the 80s moved to the 90s. But it turns out that David S. Ward's one of those guys that has made multiple really good sports movies. I guess the only other one I could think of is Ron Shelton, who made White Men Can't Jump and Tin Cup. And did he make Bull Durham?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, he just has an inherent feel for what sports feels like. And, David Ward is pretty close, because I think he really captured two sports, the essence of these two sports in two separate movies that really aren't, that are kind of similar. I mean, he follows some similar beats. Some characterizations are a little bit the same, but the look of them is very different.
Yeah, I was going to say he really has a wheelhouse around these groups of people from kind of different backgrounds and like have their own quirks and their own struggles coming together. And really, there's a lot of pressure in Major League. There's pressure to win the pennant or to get to the division championship or whatever. Here, there's a lot of pressure to get to a bowl game. This is just depicted with less humor and really just shines a light on like the pressure these kids are under, and the coach too, I guess. But it's is it accurate? I mean, I know nothing about football. We should preface this month by saying I know nothing. I don't like football. I'm not aware of like things around it. So you're going to have to drive the car on this a little bit.
Yeah. I definitely know more of football than you do. I watch a lot of football. I'm not a huge college football guy. Never really have been, and then maybe just because of the school I went to. So I'm not one of those people that sits and watches college football on Saturdays. I'm more of a pro football guy. But I'm aware of it, and all I can say is that, I think it hits the controversies and the things that were going on. It touches on all those things that we were hearing about at the time. But all I can say is that from what I've read and what I've heard, that people that play football love this movie. Like they really love it. And that's it. That is its core demographic of watchers. I don't think casual people really love the program, but people that went through it and played the game, they seem to really take to it. So I guess that speaks to how realistic it felt, and that he definitely touched a nerve on something. So I have to say it's probably closer than we think it is.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Everything I've read about this is that people come up to the stars still today, and this is the thing they quote. Or, I've heard about people like painting their face like Latimer after this came out at
Yeah,
all
that was a
levels,
big
and
thing.
very
So
influential.
right, right, yeah, the influence of it definitely be felt. So I think he really hit a nerve on I think the realism as well. So what I came across, which was really interesting to me, was the, the filmmakers actually tapped NFL films. The guys that make the NFL films. I don't know if you've ever
Uh-huh.
seen the NFL films movies.
Uh-uh.
They do they are the people that shoot the NFL for Inside the NFL and for any NFL
Okay.
documentaries. But it's a particular style of shooting. A lot of slow motion, a lot of long lenses. Like it makes football look like, you know, it feels like poetry. It's just it shoots in beautifully rendered slow motion ballet of violence. Is that the
Yeah.
best way that I can put it? NFL films stuff is some of people who love football. It's our favorite stuff to watch. It's so great. The person that used to do the narration was wonderful. It was just good stuff. You can find it on online. You can watch any NFL films, uh, documentary about a team, because they usually put out the team stories at the end of every year, and they did all those. But it was really great stuff. So they used some of the camera guys for this movie, which is why this movie looks very different than any football movie that had come before it. So you're seeing the football, even the very opening shot in the rain with the football dropping to the ground and spinning in the mud. Like that is straight out of like NFL films, beautifully filmed, perfectly framed football spinning. And like you're in it, you're in the football world, from that. And so that, and I think that football movies going forward definitely stole from that, and how to make football look gritty and real and violent and beautiful.
Does every football film have to have a nighttime rain game? Because it
I
seems like
think
it
after the
does.
program, yeah, I actually think it does. That's one of the things that they use too.
I think we'll see a bunch of them this month as
We
we
will.
go forward. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, and I was watching a different football movie with I was watching Necessary Roughness actually with my son, and there's a rain scene in that one as well. And I'm talking to him about, yeah, that football is really the only sport that's played in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
And so you have to have a scene where it's in the rain, because yeah, you can't really do that with any other sport.
I thought about that as I was watching this because I don't really, although, I mean, there aren't too many other outside sports. Everything's in an arena, but I was thinking
Right.
about baseball, which is what I watch all the time. And, uh, they'll call that immediately. And I started to wonder why. Like, why would they call a baseball game and not a football game? But maybe it speaks to the toughness of the players. I don't
It's exactly what it speaks to. Yes, football we played in any weather. I'm sure you've seen this, but I mean, have you ever seen the old George Carlin bit where he does football versus baseball?
know.
You go look it up online. It's one of George Carlin's most classic bits, but he explains the
No.
differences between football and baseball. It
Oh,
it is
interesting.
so funny. It's so wonderful. Even though he explains that one of my favorites is baseball is played on a field, where football is played in a stadium on the gridiron. Like there's all these words where like football is pastoral, and it just is like the football. The baseball is like this nice game, and
Yeah.
football is
Yeah.
just like war. And he explains like the words people use, uh, of even how you score. Like the object of baseball is to go home, right? Like and the I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but go listen to it. He does a really good job of like just 5 minutes of just the pure differences between the two sports and how they're talked about.
That sounds very Carlin.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought up the NFL films guys, because another thing I thought about as I watched this is how we talked about our baseball month and how that had such a like baseball lends itself to drama when in filming because there are no helmets. You can get tight, and it's really like a one-on-one thing. And you can kind of see that in this too. I mean, I think they like the football filmmakers really take something that I've been to one football game, actually your alma mater, University of Delaware, and it was like watching, I don't know, ants a mile away do something for like a second and then it's over. And I wasn't that interested in it. But bringing it down on the field using those long lenses, it takes something that takes like 3 seconds and turns it into 2 minutes and adds so much drama to it. It's really fascinating. That's the power of it.
The other thing in this movie that works really well is they did the camera on the helmet. So you're actually
Yeah.
seeing the point of view of the person with the ball, which is very effective because you can also see how your peripheral vision is cut off.
Yeah.
And cars are kind of coming out of nowhere into your line of sight, but also put you right in the middle of the field, which is very effective in creating drama.
I thought it looked like they only did that in the last game for some reason, as far as I remember. But I thought it was the point of view of Darnell's test that he was keeping in his helmet to impress Autumn's dad. Uh, but yeah, it kind of jarred me that they did that in the last game only because I thought, oh, this is interesting. All of a sudden, you're in this point of view, and I kind of would have liked to have had that the whole way through. But yeah, that definitely is a different approach to it. That it goes to show you what it's like. I mean, you don't see those people coming, and you have to depend on the team. It's really, I mean, I'm not gonna, get into like my fundamental learning about football watching this movie, but
I mean, you should. That's good. And I think that's what the movie is good at doing. I think that you can come in as a person not really aware of what football is about or even college football. But like any good drama, you feel it. It puts you in the middle of something that you're not familiar with. And you inherently can get an idea of what it's like to be dropped in the middle of that. It's no different than an action movie or anything else. Like you don't have any
yeah,
idea what it's like to be dropped in a jungle with a knife and and a piece of string and you have to get through. It's like the same thing. In football, they
yeah,
drop you right in the middle of the field, and this is what it feels like. Guys are coming out of nowhere, and if someone doesn't block for you, you're gonna get killed.
yeah. It's. I want to ask you about some of the realism of it because I don't. There's some things that I found questionable, like like Alvin Mack's dialogue on the field. I mean, would that
I,
fly?
I actually think that's 100% true. And
Really?
this is the thing too. I know I believe that most of that stuff is probably stuff that happens because I'm aware that football players have all these little tricks to psych themselves up. Do they specifically mention things like that specific? Like, oh, you're the guy that got my sister pregnant? I don't know. But I can absolutely believe that a football player is doing whatever it takes to make themselves, as intense as they can be. And the other thing, by the way, all of these characters in this movie are based on actual football players. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Alvin Mack character is based on, I think he said he based it on like Derek Brooks from Florida State, who was a
Uh-huh.
big defensive. I think he was a safety. I can't remember, but yeah. So is it possible that's what Derek Brooks did? Maybe. I saw him play, and he was very intense. So maybe that's true. Um, the
Yeah.
Latimer character is based on a real guy named Tommy Chaikin, who actually wrote a story in Sports Illustrated in '88 about taking steroids, about how roided out he was and all the crazy stuff that happened. So the putting his head through car windows, that stuff is real. Like that really happened. That guy was really just roid rage to the max. So all that stuff is true. As I said, the stuff in this movie that you think is ridiculous is actually probably stuff that
Yeah.
actually happened.
Yeah. I think that is an important thing that David S. Ward did in referencing those real life stories because they are so absurd, and it goes to show you the levels to which there's like damage,
Yeah.
on a personal level to these players, up to the coach, up through the boosters, up through the university. I mean, it's a lot, and you
Yeah.
really get a sense of that with this. I mean, at the center of it is Joe Caan, who is in the running, like in the lead really for the Heisman Trophy at the beginning of the season. And he's somebody who you don't know if I guess he handles pressure in the moment during the games, but off the field, there's a lot going on. He has things with his dad. Kind of reminded me of Ricky Bobby a little bit, trying to get his dad to come to the race and didn't show up. But you know, you just see that pressure. You see pressure for Latimer, who put on 35 pounds in the off season in a couple
Mysteriously
months.
over, it was like when Lenny Dykstra showed up to the Phillies in '93. All of a sudden, he was gained 30 pounds of muscle. Like, wow, you really worked out over the summer.
I love James Caan comes in. He's like, it's not that hard to put on 35 pounds in the summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would say that I probably put on 35 pounds this summer, but I didn't use steroids. What I have to thank for it is AMC movie theater popcorn, because I ate a lot of it and I probably put on 35 pounds.
Tom
But
Cruise would be proud.
he would be proud. That's for sure.
But that's the thing too, that it, you know, in watching this movie and even in talking about it, yeah, it's a culture that is, you know, football culture is a very singular kind of culture. And I think it's good for you to see something like this, because there's always people that think I could play, you know, you watch football on TV and you're like, oh, I could do that. And it's like, no, you can't. Like there's just a certain level of insanity that you have to be a professional athlete in the first place. But to be a football player, I think football players and hockey players have the mentality that the average person can't even understand. You know, you're putting yourself in a world of violence and pain and pure intensity that the average person does not understand and can't really try to understand. And it takes something like this where you can watch it on TV or watch a movie like this and realize, yeah, that person's not like me.
I remember in high school, the football team was like a tribe and they were maniacs. I mean, they would wear their jerseys all the time. They would do crazy things like this. I remember one of the bigger linebackers, like he got so big he couldn't fit through a door going head on. He had to turn sideways to get through a door. Wow. I don't know what he was, you know, if he was on anything or not, but and they would do crazy things like go to a drive-in and order a milkshake and then throw it at the person who's at the window. And like this, even in high school, you know, and seeing this film really kind of struck a chord with me with its realism from that minimal experience I have.
And that leads to the other part. You're talking about people that really love this movie, but you know, people took the things in this movie and they brought them out into the real world, which again goes to show you the culture that you got. You know, the football people took to this and they started emulating the things that you saw in this movie, from, you know, things that are silly to things that were truly dangerous and terrible. But the first one being, there's the scene with Mac and Lattimore where they spit in each other's mouths.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people went up to them and told them that they were doing that now. And they're like, we never did that. That was just CGI. We never spit in each other's mouths. Are you crazy? But people started doing that in real life to emulate the movie. And the face paint was another thing, obviously. But then there was this scene that kind of pushed this movie sideways. I think the thing that prevented this movie from really being successful is a scene that ended up having to be cut from the movie. So you can talk about that.
Yeah, it's a scene that I feel is represented anyway, with Joe Caan getting on the train track. I mean, so it doesn't feel like you really need it regardless, but there's a scene that was originally in the theatrical version where Joe Caan goes out and lays on the yellow line on a highway as cars rush by. He's just reading Sports Illustrated to show how cool he is under pressure.
Well, his article, the article,
right. Yeah. He was the cover story in the issue of Sports Illustrated that came out when they were all going back to school. And the rest of the team, like the main characters, join him. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's crazy that, especially Alvin Mack. I mean, that guy is so like in his head about, you know, losing everything he has. There's no way he would do that.
It's interesting you say that, because supposedly Dwayne Davis, who played Alvin Mack, said that he went to David Ward and said specifically that. He's like, I can't imagine. Yeah, he's like, I can't imagine Mack would lay down on the road because he's got so much to lose.
Yeah.
And apparently the director said, yeah, that's fine. Just go lay down the road. And then after the fact, Craig Schiffer, who plays, uh, I'm not
Joe
sure I'm blanking
Kane.
on his name, Joe Caan, also told the director he didn't want to do it. And supposedly they called his agent and were like, he has to do the scene. Now, this is all after the fact.
Yeah.
Do we know this is true? I don't know. I mean, obviously, after what happened, everyone wants to separate themselves from the scene.
Right.
And, David Ward is kind of, even he distances himself from it, although obviously he wrote it and wanted to make sure it was filmed. But everybody wants to say now they didn't want to do it at the time. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I could believe Dwayne Davis, because you're right, exactly. There's no motivation for a guy whose whole life is to sign a pro contract, to put himself in that position.
I guess unless he'd been drinking and, he's part of this team, and if the leader of the team goes out and does it. I also didn't understand Bobby Collins, the backup quarterback, going and doing it. I mean, why was he even there? For one thing, but there's no benefit to him going out there. But
I have to say, that's funny. It's funny you mentioned Bobby Collins thing, because there's the whole side thing, which is also based on a true story about a quarterback who dates the coach's daughter and the whole thing. So that's actually real as well. But I like how when we first meet Bobby Collins, he says to Joe, I was hoping you get hurt so I could get some reps. And you're thinking, oh, he's good. He's just not as good as Joe Kane. Right. But it turns out he's not good at all. He's actually terrible. Yeah. So what is this illusion he has about his own ability to play football? He's terrible.
Well, I think he's the only option if Joe Kane's not around. So
I just think that's really funny. Clearly Bobby Collins is delusional.
Yeah. But the scene they lay down in traffic, there were two instances of kids doing this after the film came out, one in Pennsylvania, one in New Jersey. And in both instances, one kid died and two other kids were injured. So they actually pulled this from theaters, cut the scene out, and put it back in theaters. And I think that, was the kiss of death to take it out of theaters for however long it was. I don't know. But, they had to cut this scene literally out of the reel of film for every version of this around the country. So, that's no small task, and it might have taken a few weeks. And by then, and the controversy around it too probably made it less desirable for film goers. So it struggled because of it.
Right. It never recovered. But at the same time, since then, it's become, a huge cult movie amongst people that love football. So, I mean, instead everyone loves Rudy, to talk about that. It's one of the best football movies of all time. But I think maniacs love the program, and it speaks to a certain kind of person that loves that kind of football.
Yeah. I kept thinking about what a perfect double feature this would be with Blue Chips. By the way, happy birthday, William Friedkin, yesterday. But those two films in particular, looking at college sports with like maniacs as coaches, are like the perfect double feature. So I might actually go watch Blue Chips. I should probably buy it.
But Andrew Brynjarski, the guy that plays Latimer, also said that a bunch of people come up to him still and they're like, I based how I play off of Latimer. And he's like, I'm really proud of that. It's like, you are? That guy was a roid rage maniac.
He couldn't play without them.
Exactly. So I don't know what to say to that, but people really took to Latimer. Like, they try to emulate him. It's like, okay, but again, no judgment. You have to have that kind of mindset to put yourself on a football field. I never had that. That's why I didn't play. There was a brief time where I thought I was going to play running back and play football. And then I saw someone take a helmet in the chest and I'm like, I'm good. Thank you. I'm all right. It just wasn't in me.
I think that they have that players dinner before the first game, I think it is. And everybody has to say what they're grateful for. And I think Latimer just like sums up everything, where he's like, it's a war. We have to go out there and fight and it, like, kill. And that's the mentality, and also that's Oliver Stone's mentality for making all movies. And we're going to talk about Any Given Sunday in a few weeks, which really melds like the war mentality of football with Oliver Stone's war mentality. So stay tuned for that. But you really like the mindset. And I think on top of just having that mindset, that pressure, James Caan's coach character. By the way, let me ask you this. I've been thinking a lot. Is James Caan a terrible actor?
I am really glad you brought this up. I couldn't wait to talk about this. James
Jeez.
Caan in this movie is probably my favorite thing in the movie by far, because he starts off the movie with some vague Southern-like accent, and then midway through the movie just starts talking like James Caan from like Queens,
Yeah.
and then the accent slowly comes back at some point. It's somewhere in the middle. I have no idea what James Caan's doing throughout this movie. I'm here for the whole thing. I love almost every minute of it. Where I'm like, I don't even know what he's trying to do. Like, it's just, it's one of my favorite things. Watching James Caan try to have a Southern accent going on.
He is. I've noticed this in like late years for Caan. He's the same way in Elf. He's the same way in like a bunch of other things. Not so much in stuff like The Godfather and even all the way up to Thief, but he's like a robot. Like there's no emotion whatsoever. And even when he's mad, it's like the same tone. And he's just, yeah, well, I believe in this kid, and you have to clean this mess up. And it's like, dude, I think at this point he just didn't have to do anything he didn't want to
Yeah,
do.
he was just coasting on being James Caan. But again, he tried to do an accent, which is wonderful.
Even when he's mad at the reporters, he's like, well, I knew you couldn't write, but I didn't know you couldn't do math. Or like just the line delivery is so flat. But I feel bad because it's James Caan and because his ghost might come and beat me up. But he's like just so linear. And I'm always like, I forget until I watch something of his, and it kind of shocks me every time. But I read that the guy who played Bobby Collins, like Caan just wouldn't talk to him on set, even if he like asked him questions. And he he was like, well, I guess he's method. Coach hates Bobby Collins, so he's not going to talk to me.
Yeah, it's 50-50. You may just not want to talk to that guy at all. But I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to have a coach in a football movie, it should either be Al Pacino or Robert Loggia. Those are basically the only two people that should be football coaches. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, and we're going to get one of those this week or this month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
That's it.
Yeah. I want to talk about Craig Sheffer a little bit. He's at the center of this, and it kind of a thing for me because he's from my hometown, and he's York, Pennsylvania has three things. They have the artist Jeff Koons, they have Craig Sheffer, and they have the band Live. And so he's kind of like when he got out, and I think when he did, River Runs Through It before this, that was like a really big deal for the town. It's not a town, it's a city, but he made it. Like he got out, and that was awesome. And he would still come back and like hang out at the college bar, which was really great.
Really?
Probably around this time, in fact. So that was kind of cool. Just almost always by himself, I think, as I recall, and just seemed like a totally nice dude. But he's had a weird career in that this is really one of the things he's central to, and there isn't much else to speak of where he's kind of that lead.
Yeah, so he did Runs Through It, which was a good movie. Gets the lead in this, and then he was up for the lead in Schindler's List. Strangely
he auditioned
enough.
During this
he
film.
was auditioning to play Schindler during this time. Of course, they end up going a different route, wanting to pass an older actor. But yeah, it seems like after that, everything just kind of peters out for him, and he never really reaches the heights that it looked like he was on in terms of trajectory. I think that the entirety of the cast, if you look at it, it's much like Major League. I think that the casting of this, and they went out and found a lot of young talent, some of who are caught right at the moment that they're kind of on the come up, and some actors who we assume are going to be bigger. But at this time, it's a good group of kids.
Yeah, and maybe the peak for some of them, I think.
Right. Ends up being the peak for some of them, yeah.
Yeah, like even with Craig Sheffer, I mean, he had a solid career prior to this with a couple things like he did a stint on One Life to Live, but he was also in That Was Then, This Is Now with Emilio Estevez, which kind of like sent him down an indie route. That's
Right.
based on S.E. Hinton book. Then he went on to do Nightbreed, which is I actually love this film when I was a kid. It's based on a Clive Barker book, kind of a
Yeah.
horror movie. He really carried that well. And he was also in Some Kind of Wonderful. That was like a big thing for him too. And then after this, he sort of takes an indie route again. He's in something called Sleep With Me in 1994, which I remember having a little bit of buzz around it.
Yep.
But beyond that, there was Bliss with Sherilyn Fenn in 1997. I remember that quite well. But yeah, kind of takes a back seat after that and works steadily, but you don't really see him too much. He doesn't stand out
Yeah.
in anything.
Just starts to become a
Did it
working actor, unlike Brad Pitt, who ends up becoming, a star from Reboot Runs Through It.
right. Now he did have a run on One Tree Hill, the TV show, for a while, which I think was kind of like the biggest thing he had done after this. So
Everybody ends up on a WB show eventually.
they really do. But I'd like to see more from him. I really like him as an actor. So it's
Yeah, I thought he was a good actor in this movie. Wasn't necessarily a great football player. You can tell when he was throwing the football versus the quarterback they used to do a lot of the passes, right. and that's something too. By the way, you can always tell who actually has played and who hasn't played. It's just hard to hide. There's a certain mechanics to the way that you throw a football that you can tell. And Sheffer was decent. He had a decent arm. You can see he could throw, but there was a little hitch in the way that he threw it. He came over the top a little bit. So you could always tell it was him versus the college quarterback they used in the scenes where they had to make sure things went well. And that guy had a beautiful throw. Side note for that. So the filming of all those scenes, they were filmed, I think mostly filmed at the University of South Carolina. They used the field and they filmed during halftime to have the crowd. But there was a ton of pressure. You basically got one shot for those scenes. You had to make sure you got it right because you weren't getting multiple takes because you were basically at 15 minutes during halftime to get all this done. And one of the amazing stories is the scene at the end where he scrambles and pump fakes and drops the ball.
Yeah.
And fumbles and picks it up. That was not supposed to happen. He pump faked it and dropped it on accident. And if he hadn't recovered that ball and didn't get that scene, they probably wouldn't have had that scene because they had to get it done. They had one take. So, I mean, that's where using a person who actually played football comes in handy because he dropped it, picks it up, and ends up making that throw in one motion and still gets it where it has to go to make that scene work. I mean, if you have an actor doing that, that is not gonna work. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the pressure again, like that's a different kind of pressure on the set to get that right.
Absolutely. But Omar Epps actually did catch that ball. That was him. That he actually was the receiver who caught it. So, and that would be pretty cool. He knew what he had to do, how to be where he was, and make sure that he catches that ball. Because if he drops it, then the whole thing falls apart. So, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. The one thing I really disliked about this film was Omar Epps' ADR lines as he's running, where he's like talking to the other players, and it just sounds like, he's in a recording studio recording these lines. Like there's nothing about it being on the field. It's maddening.
There was a lot of overdub where you could actually tell that they were just throwing it after the fact.
Oh, I really hated that. Mac doing it at the line, that was great, if not over the top. But him doing it as he's running, it just made no sense, and I that almost felt like a major league kind of gag or something,
Yeah. So speaking of major league, so Omar Epps, so this is right when Omar Epps starts to come up. He just made Juice, which I may have mentioned on this pod before. I used to love Juice. That was one of my favorite movies back in the day. So that's the first time I saw Omar Epps. He's in this. And then based on this, he ends up getting cast in Major League 2. He replaces Wesley Snipes as Willie Mays Hayes in Major League 2. So obviously David Ward liked him. And you clearly see that Omar Epps is an athlete and no one can be Wesley Snipes, but so he's doing that. And, a lot of connections between people in these movies. So we saw that, Dwayne Davis and Andrew Bednarski both made Necessary Roughness, then made this. Christy Swanson and Omar Epps ended up doing Higher Learning a couple of years down the road. And Craig Sheffer and Joey Lauren Adams, who has a small part in this early on, they end up both being in Sleep With Me together. So again, it's like you have a bunch of these young actors who kind of end up following each other and they end up working together again. But Halle Berry is obviously the person who ends up being the biggest person from this movie.
Right.
And went back and looked at it. This was really early on in her career. She did some TV stuff, but she's on quite a heater here in terms of just her first few movies. So the first thing she's in is Jungle Fever, and then she's in Strictly Business, which you can look it up. I thought that movie was okay. But then she's also, is where Shane Black comes in. She was in The Last Boy Scout.
Right.
Also a football adjacent movie with Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis, written by Shane Black. One of my favorite movies. I almost picked it for Football Month because I've always loved it so much. But I felt like going to the Shane Black. They just, there's no reason to do another Shane Black movie and go there a few too many times. But I've always loved that movie. It's not that good, but it's perfect in its own way. So she was in that. She's in Boomerang with Eddie Murphy in '92. And then she's in CB4, which is another movie I loved with Chris Rock in '93. And she's in The Program.
CB4. That movie is so fun.
Yeah. And then she's in The Program. So, 3 years out, she's in a lot of good stuff, popular things. She really comes out of the gate. She came out of the gate harder than I remembered.
But is she Halle Berry at that point? That's what I was thinking about.
No, she's
when did
not.
she come onto the radar for me? Probably the Flintstones.
See, I remember her in Boomerang, but again, she has a small part in Last Boy Scout, but even memorable in that. But yeah, Boomerang is kind of where she really, shows her chops and steps up, and then from that point on, and she kind of starts becoming Halle Berry. But again, she ends up in a few more. She ends up in a few more Spike Lee movies. So going back to Spike Lee, Spike Lee is kind of the person that puts her out on the map. Cast her in Jungle Fever, and then cast her in a few more things in the subsequent years.
I'm trying to look at her filmography and think about what is the first thing that I knew her as Halle Berry in.
I'm gonna guess it wasn't Baps. That's my guess.
It wasn't Baps. I think it might have been as late as Bulworth in 1998. I don't know. Wow. Going in retrospect, now I can remember her in all of these films, but I don't remember her being a marquee name for me until probably Bulworth. Just kind of coming off of Baps and all the things that she had done before it, maybe building that up. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the one or not, but you're right. She's coming out swinging and has just had an insane career. She's great. And just won an Oscar. It's quite impressive. And when you look at everybody else in this, James Caan aside, I think she's clearly the most successful. Yeah. But it's and by a mile. I don't see anybody else who really sort of went on to do anything.
Yeah,
notable.
I always wonder why Omar Epps wasn't bigger. He ends up doing a long stint on House.
Yeah.
The TV show. But I've never seen Omar Epps in anything I didn't like him in.
Right.
And I just can't quite figure out why he never got over in the way that he should have. It kind of baffles me. So I can't really speak to that. It's just something I always wonder about. And it says the minute I saw him in Juice, obviously Tupac Shakur was in that, and people remember him in that movie. But I remember Omar Epps more than anyone from that movie when I saw it at the time, and I always liked him, everything I'd seen him in after that.
Yeah, he's a great actor. I'm holding out hope that he'll do a hockey movie so he can get that sports movie EGOT and you
That's
know
right.
just cover all four major sports. But and he ice skates in this, so we know he can skate.
That's
But
right.
yeah, he really just eh, yeah, like a working actor, like everybody else, but sort of lost that juice a little bit, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah,
Holly Berry
it's
though.
strange to look at this cast and see where they all were in the moment, and some of them may, some don't. But even Christy Swanson in this, she had just come off making Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was supposed to be a big movie for her. That ends up not being as successful as it probably could have been or should have been. And then she ends up doing this. She has a decent run for a few years.
Yeah, the chase with Charlie Sheen. You remember that?
I do. I remember it.
I mostly remember Flea and Anthony Kiedis driving like a monster truck, always chasing them. That was
Uh-huh.
yeah, that was pretty great. Yeah, I mean she and again, like also working all the time now, but not really standing out or leading anything. I think the last thing I remember her from is Big Daddy, the Adam Sandler movie, and that was like what, 2002 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's still working though, So uh Dwayne Davis too. I mean that he had a run there where he was in like every football and baseball movie. And I have to ask, is this the sequel to Summer School? Because he plays the character who gets the bathroom key on the first day of school and is never seen again until the
Isn't that
end.
amazing? I didn't even realize that.
I
And I
didn't
went
either.
back to look up, like, holy crap, that was him. So,
Yeah.
see, all of our movies are connected in some way. And yes, the other
Yeah.
thing he did was he did Team Knight Rider, which was a spin off TV show of Knight Rider that came out in the late
Yeah.
90s. So, all these things that we're talking about and end up being connected in some way. But he kind of disappears, though, um, in the 2000s. I don't think he works from, basically like 2004. He ends up like one episode of Psych. See, there's Psych comes back again.
You love that.
And then he doesn't show up on anything for like 15 years. So I don't quite know what happened with him. There's a really long gap of not working at all, but I'm not really sure.
I just I just had the idea, what if on-field Alvin Mack voiced Kit in this new Knight Rider
See, by the way, I had forgotten the part that he played Necessary Roughness, which was Featherstone, who was the guy who was really fast but couldn't actually catch the football.
Oh, really?
There's like a running thing
I've
in that
seen
movie where he can't actually catch. So he plays offense in that movie, and he plays defense in this movie.
Yeah.
Alvin Mack can do it all.
Do it all.
Alvin Mack, Dwayne Davis can do it all. He can play any football that you want him to do.
His dad was a pro player for I think the Green Bay Packers. So it's kind of in his blood. But that goes to show you, like, if you're one of these football guys, like you're typecast as the football guy.
Yeah.
And
we'll see a few of these guys again in Any Given Sunday when we talk about that one. So
yeah. I kept thinking of Jefferson from Fast Times, because remember how they would show like a close up of his face and he would have so much rage on the field and he would just shake. I love that. There's always one like maniac on the football team. I can't wait to see who it is in the upcoming films, but that's like
Any Given Sunday, it's everybody. So everybody in Any Given Sunday is maniac. But so in this one too, we're talking about the close ups and everything. When they mention the snot bubble in the beginning of the movie, that it's definitely going to show up again at the end, which it does. Which Lattimore makes a big tackle. And I'm like, did I really need that? I probably didn't, but I knew it was coming anyway.
Also felt like a major league kind of gag to me that they would show. Like
Absolutely.
That was the only comedy bit in the movie, really, and it's pure comedy. I mean, you don't add that in to the tone of this movie and make it like the end of the film. That's crazy, especially because that means like Latimer, has to go see the coach and is so sad because coach knows he's on roids. I felt bad for him. Like, would you lose that much like ability in 3 weeks the way he did to be knocked into the end zone like that? Like there's a scene where it's 4th and 1, the running back just like rolls over Latimer because he stopped using steroids. presumably.
Yeah.
But that seems quick to me.
I was gonna bring that up too. I don't know for sure because I've never done steroids, but I could imagine that you do lose some of it fairly quickly because you have to keep the rotation going. But
Right.
that scene specifically, I feel like that was there for a purpose. We call that being Bosworth.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I mean, even you probably remember this, even though you didn't necessarily love football. But so this goes back to '87, when Brian Bosworth, who was a huge defensive back, uh, plays for the Seattle Seahawks, and Bo Jackson is
he
on the
did.
Raiders. First game they play against each other, and they have that exact thing where they're at the goal line. Jackson gets the ball. Bosworth is right there to stop him, and Bo Jackson just mows him down. And
Oh,
he basically takes Bosworth's heart and his career in that moment.
yeah.
If Bosworth never recovers, he basically becomes an also ran and out of the NFL in a couple of years. That moment shattered Bosworth's illusion of invincibility. And Bosworth was also on steroids, by the way. So
Yeah.
my feeling is 100% they put that scene in for people that know football and will remember that because
Mhm.
it's so specific to like that one moment that everyone remembers when Bo Jackson just took Bosworth out. So
It's also critical to that character. I mean, it just goes
I
to
agree.
show that he doesn't have that ability without the enhancement. And
Right.
I would argue that moment between Bo Jackson and Bosworth was critical in that we probably wouldn't have had Stone Cold if that didn't happen. So in the cinematic world, it was kind of a gift.
It's
But
true.
yeah,
It's
why was
true.
Bosworth not in this movie? I guess he was still playing at that point.
93. No, he would have been out of the NFL by then. I don't think he was in the NFL by 93, but I'm pretty sure he was too old, didn't want to go back to being in a football movie, possibly.
I seem to remember him as more of like a wrestling character than a football player because he was
Absolutely.
so like bold personality and style wise.
Very much
Yeah.
so. I mean, he was very much a
Did he
product of the
launch that?
80s. Yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
was very much a product of the 80s of making himself a larger than life character. I mean, he was really smart about it. But again, and that is the thing about football. And I think this movie does a good job of capturing that. You know, it's like you can talk all you want, but you get on the field and you're going to have to put up or shut up. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's there. And Bosworth proved in the moment that, you know, his mouth was writing checks that his ass couldn't cash, as they say.
Yeah.
And once he got exposed, it was over. Like, that's it. And so all the fancy commercials in the world aren't going to change that.
Yeah. And you could see some of these guys kind of headed on a smaller level down that path.
Yeah.
But
It was
good.
all the little things too that, you know, this movie telegraph. I mean, it's a sports movie. They telegraph everything a mile away. You know, the minute that Alvin Mack gives his mom a door knocker for a house,
Yeah.
that he's not going to make it. Like, we know
Right.
without a doubt that's not going to end well. And
I would argue that even though there are obvious things like that, some of the moments like that one feel pretty poignant, and I think they're really well written. I mean, David
well,
F.
they
Ward's
always
a
still
great
get to
writer.
you. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
said they're not effective. They're always effective, but it doesn't mean you don't see them coming. But that's
Right.
the thing. Most movies, it's not like you don't see the things coming a mile away, but you pull it off well and it's effective. You still feel terrible for him, and you know there's a million people with that story. It's just tragic. You put all of your eggs into the NFL basket. If you don't make it, I mean, you know, you don't have the education to fall back on. And someone just mentioned that too, that they went up to him and said they were inspired by that, where they had an injury and they went back and got their degree, you know, knowing that it's, you know, it's important. You have to have something to fall back on. So I'd like to think that some people were inspired, not necessarily by Lattimore, but by Alvin Mack to go and get their college degree. So
Yeah. Well, that I mean, something good came out of the film. Then that's great. Speaking of Seattle, Alvin Mack, um, Dwayne Davis said that when they were filming Little Big League a few years later, they filmed it during in Minnesota during the Twins games. So they had just like this, where like I don't know, seventh inning stretch or something, or maybe before or after the game. But Ken Griffey Jr. came up to somebody who was working on the film and was like, you know what sports movie I love? The Program. I love Alvin Mack. And somebody's like, hey, Alvin Mack's right over there. Go talk to him. And they just like hit it off, like Alvin Mack, Dwayne Davis, and Ken Griffey Jr., which I thought was really sweet. Like,
That's pretty funny.
you know.
See, you never know who's going to love the program. It's so.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
really
aware of
cool.
Ken Griffey Jr. ever playing football, but see, yeah, you love the program.
No,
but yeah. So again, just talking, it covers a lot of things that had been talked about amongst people that knew the game. But I think that around this time in the early '90s, the steroid thing started getting talked about more. Again, the Tommy Chaikin story came out in the late '80s, but in '92, Lyle Alzado passed away from a brain tumor. Yeah. He was considered one of the greatest defensive backs in football history. He passes away at 42 from a brain tumor that he said was from all the steroid use. So, there's just this realization of what's going on. It used to be something that's kind of hidden to bodybuilders, and but it starts spreading out into other sports and starts getting talked about. And don't forget that the Ben Johnson thing at the Olympics, where he ends up losing his gold medal because he was on steroids.
Right.
But yeah, there's also more talk now about guys getting paid by boosters, giving them stipends so they can live. And it's kind of a tossed away moment in the movie, but I think it is really important. And it's Alvin Mack that mentions that, where he says that you can't survive on the stipend you get from the scholarship, and because of this what you sign with the school, you're not actually allowed to work part-time either. There's like all these weird rules about scholarship athletes. There was a really good article about it, which I don't remember where I read it, but it discusses all these athletes that lost their scholarships for the most inane, stupid infractions. Like this guy was homeless and stayed with a family, and they felt like that was a gift, and they kicked him off his scholarship. Like just these crazy things that happen to athletes. And so, that's very realistic as well. So all these athletes are getting kind of paid under the table. And he says in the movie, he says, they should just pay us. I don't know why they just don't pay us. And, 30 years later now, everything college football is turned on its head, where now college football players are being paid. We've gotten to the point where that dam is finally broken. I'm not going to get into whether or not that's a good idea either. I think that there are going to be some things coming down the road that are going to come out of paying athletes in college that are going to be some unintended consequences, because once you're putting all this money in the football program, I think you're going to see other programs or athletes not get scholarships, or other sports have to fold because the money's not there anymore for other sports. There's a lot of things that come from all of this, but the argument that college football players are essentially making millions and millions and millions of dollars for the school and deserve to be compensated is a fair point, and it was brought up all the way back here in '93. So
yeah, even Coach Winters brings it up at the Bobby Collins hearing when that guy who has like the most beautiful voice I've ever heard challenges him on the classes that Collins was taking. And he's like, do science experiments bring in 80,000 people or something?
Yeah, he said no one never brought 80,000 people never came to a stadium to watch a guy do a science experiment, do a chemistry experiment. That was a good line.
Yeah, and that speaks to it. When Alvin was talking about that, like that really was a big deal, and it's crazy. Like it's kind of crazy. It's like being taken advantage of for sure.
Yeah, and the thing with Alvin Mack, coming out of his mouth makes it more poignant too, because it's true. A lot of these guys go through these college careers, give everything. They're not getting paid. They end up getting hurt, and their football careers are over, and they never see a dime of any money. Yet they made millions of dollars for the schools, and they never get paid ever because they get injured in their senior year or whatever the case may be, and they never see a dime playing football. So you can't not think about that as well. And so I'm pretty sure that's why they put those words in Alvin Mack's mouth as well.
And we know that he relied on that money, because after he gets injured, he goes home to what seems like one of the shacks from Sinners from like 1950s Mississippi or something. And I wish better for Alvin Mack, because I really liked him despite his aggression. on the field. It was kind of insane.
So I did have one thing to bring up that you mentioned at the top of the show, where the pressure to get to a bowl game, and basically saying that the coach's job is on the line and everything else. The final game is this big dramatic thing. We're supposed to believe that by winning that game, they finally get to a bowl.
Yeah.
But it's not brought up in any way. Right? Like they win that game and then the season's over. Like you're already to the next part of the thing. Like you never actually get to see them play in a bowl game. We don't hear any discussion about it. I just think that's really strange. Like it just ends with the next recruiting trip as if the season's ended and we're already on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think that was a bit strange because the whole movie felt like it was building up to the bowl, but I guess it was just the getting there. But it would have been nice to know what actually happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
maybe just a card on the screen to let us know what happened. I mean, this is the 90s, like the early 90s. So those kind of like, this is what happened after the movie things were pretty popular.
Yeah, I would have appreciated just getting an idea of what happened with the bowl game they were supposed to go to. Two other things. There's the scene where Lattimore rages out and attacks that girl. And I could just help but think, did they find the smallest girl they could find to make that scene like even more intense and scary, because he was basically twice the size of her? It was like genuinely frightening how much bigger he was than she was. And I guess they must have done that on purpose because it made that scene even scarier than it might have been.
There's a shot during that scene where it's like her POV and it's just his face in the frame. That's like straight up out of a horror movie. I mean, that really jumped out at me as like, my God. Yeah.
Speaking of horror movies, so that guy ends up playing Leatherface. Andrew Bryniarski ends up playing Leatherface in the remakes of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I didn't know.
Yep. I didn't either. Yeah, but
it kind of looks like, I was gonna say, it kind of looks like Zakk Wylde now from Black Label Society, Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist. I saw a picture of him recently. I'm like, he looks like Zakk Wylde. Anyway.
I think when he described the character, he said it's a cross between Gene Simmons and Howie Long, which is pretty good.
That, by the way, is one of those things. Howie Long now does the NFL on Fox, and he does the morning and he's seems like a smart regular dude, but by all accounts, he was a genuine maniac. Like Howie Long was one of the most intense defensive players, like no joke. Wow. So again, I think that's always fascinating too. It's like you have to be this guy, you have to be this intense, crazy person to stay in the NFL all those years and to be effective. And then, to move into a completely separate career where he seems like an average, normal guy. But by all accounts, Howie Long was not a normal guy. So I think that's why Bryniarski mentions that in that way. Because, Howie Long was one of those guys considered just a lunatic on the field. And like Dick Butkus, who has a cameo in Necessary Roughness, same thing. Like he ends up starring in, a bunch of shows and commercials down the road. But like he was the kind of person that would step on your face on the field, like after a play, like trying to kill people. Just by all accounts, a straight up lunatic. And I'm always fascinated by that, like the ability to turn that on and off, like to walk away from it and become a regular member of society. Because it doesn't seem like everyone can do that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about veterans coming back from war, and you always see depicted how they have a hard time leaving war behind. So I would imagine, on the set of NFL on Fox, Howie Long is like screaming at Jimmy Johnson or something between takes.
I wonder, like, when they watch the games together, when they're not on camera, like how intense they are about it. I've always been curious about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw them filming that once. It was up at, I guess at, I thought it was at CBS, where right by Central Park, where there's an Apple store now. But it doesn't make sense that it would be if they're on Fox. I don't know, but it was like Deion Sanders, Jimmy Johnson, Howie Long, and I can't remember who the other person was. But it was cool to see them like setting up and doing that whole production. but I didn't see him yell at anybody or hit anybody. So at least
Oh
that day he
God,
kept it under wraps.
that's good to know.
Yeah. So
The one other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap it up was we didn't talk about how quotable this movie is, which is part of the reason so many people love it. There's a
yeah.
lot of lines in this movie that people quote all the time. One of my favorites is "Are you hurt or are you injured?" Which I think
Yeah.
is just a great line. It's right out of the top. But the
Yep.
place at the table, and
Oh,
let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner, which seems cool in the moment, but is actually probably this one of the stupidest lines that I've heard. Like I don't think that's motivating in any way. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but they say it quite a lot in the movie.
see, I was going to wrap up the show by saying that, and now I can't.
I ruined it. I'm sorry.
It's probably for the best. But yeah. It's
I'm
kind of a
sorry, I
dumb
stepped on your
line.
line. It's like like when he says it in the movie, you're like, all right, but then you step away from the movie, you're like, I would not be motivated by that in any way. Like I don't know, I don't. It's not working for me.
Yeah, that could be a better line for sure. But
I think so.
you know, plenty of other things in here. Like place
Yeah.
at the table is like the one, right? I mean, that's it's so quick. Like that's interesting because I saw this in 1993 and maybe one other time in the mid 90s, and I still say that, but in my mind it's become this big line that he says like in some gigantic way. And even though he kind of yells it, seeing it again, it's not anything like I remember it being. It's the quote from the movie, but it's not like uh forget it, Jake. It's always Chinatown or something. It's
Right.
like he just says it in the middle after like almost like he got cast in a school play because his name is on the sheet posted on the wall at school, and it's almost overshadowed by him like putting his head
Yeah.
through car windows.
By the way, those scenes are only really effective. The scene where he's lifting weights after the practice too, because of those two
Yeah,
coaches that are just standing out all the time. Like, should we tell the coach about this? Like, this seems like a problem. I don't know, but
yeah, that's
and then
that's sign
then
number one
that
that
makes me
he's
laugh
on
every time. They're
steroids.
like this doesn't seem great. I think he's got a problem. Yeah, you think?
That's such a great scene because there's just this pan of all of these guys just dead from like a 2-a-day or something and worn out on the floor, and then he's in the weight room screaming, just
No.
deadlifting.
That scene before that is really intense, and I think some of those things you're not even allowed to do anymore in practices.
Yeah, I wondered about
The
that.
scene in the circle where they're just running at each other, like, that was a big
Hmm.
thing. I actually don't think you can do that anymore. Because guys are getting knocked on their asses too much. It's just just in a circle, and you're just literally two guys running at each other. You try and knock the
Yeah.
guy out of the circle. Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure. I feel like I read somewhere. I think maybe at least in high school, like that stuff is banned in high school now. You're not allowed to do it at all. Too many kids are getting hurt. But yeah, I also love what he does. He does these deadlifting. He drops it, and then he kicks it. Like I just kind of love that. Like that he's just yelling at it and kicks the weights. Like I don't know if you noticed that part at the very end.
Yeah, yeah.
That also makes me laugh every time. I don't know.
There's a bit that David Cross has where he talks about going to the gym and how there are different types of people there. And one of them is just like they have so many issues that they have to take it out on the weights, and they're just screaming at the weights like because it's ridiculous. But that's for sure what Latimer does here. I mean, when they're showing what looks like, like a post-war battle and all these guys sitting on the floor, you hear him well before you see him because
Yeah.
not only is he lifting all these weights, he's screaming at them. It's so absurd, but you gotta love it. I wish
do
better
love
for
that scene.
Latimer. Yeah. I wish he could have made it as a roid-free player, but it just, wasn't in the cards for him. So, all right, well, let's talk about the numbers before I forget, because this did not make money, unfortunately. And as we mentioned that, pulling it out of theaters probably contributed to it not making money. It had what I saw was like a $15 to $20 million budget. There's no specific number there, but only grossed 23 million. Now I would think the home video sales and rentals are probably through the roof given, how much people love this film. But in the theaters, 23 million, which isn't really making your money back. So that's too bad. And I've never seen a split this wide on Rotten Tomatoes, but the critic score for this is 43 and the audience score is
Wow.
80. That's quite a gap. So it tells you that it's a terrible film that people really love. 3.1 on Letterboxd, which is average. That's okay. But yeah, that gap on Rotten Tomatoes is pretty interesting. Roger Ebert really liked this. Gave it 3 stars. And so yeah, he's maybe the lone critic who actually enjoyed it. I don't know.
See, Roger Ebert was probably roided out in his 20s as well. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He feels
I
the
think I
intensity.
remember that in Life Itself. He went through a whole time of
He used
like,
to go to
screaming at
screenings and just start
bartenders.
yelling at the screen, screaming
Yeah.
at it. It was a lot.
Did you ever see those outtakes between like during commercial breaks with him and Ebert or him and Siskel? It was like brutal. Okay, well that's it for the program. Kind of fun. I think you should check it out if you can. I'm sure. Did you get this from the library?
I did actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard to find on streaming.
Your version didn't have the cutscene, right?
No.
Okay.
But you can
You can
easily
find
find
that on
that scene
YouTube.
online. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
would
do you
say
like
find
football?
it.
Do you like football? Do you like football movies? You should definitely watch the program. Like, what more is
Yeah.
there to say?
I don't like football and I enjoyed this film, so you don't even necessarily have to like football to watch it and enjoy it.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, check it out if you can. And let's move on to what we watched this week.
Yeah, so this week I actually did something I haven't done in a long time, which I watched 2 movies on the same day, like back to
In
back.
theaters?
Yeah, I went to the theater and watched
Good for you.
2 movies back to back.
My man.
So I watched Relay, and then
Oh,
I watched Weapons. And Relay, because we were talking about that Shane Black movie. It's just I watched Relay and ended up being really annoyed when it was over because it just feels like the kind of movie that people should know about and go see. I thought it was really well done. Like, it
I
felt
really
to
liked
me
it.
like a much better version of something like The Amateur,
Yeah.
where The Amateur was everywhere, and it just felt like it was a much better movie than that. And yet, I feel like it's going to come and go with a whimper, and most people won't even know that it existed. I told my wife I was going to see it, and she had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And I also feel that way about everything Riz Ahmed does. He's actually, really one of my favorite actors.
I agree.
And I don't even understand why he is not everywhere. I just think he's really good in this movie as well. So yeah, it's worth trying to find and check out. It was a really well done, a simple movie, but a kind of an effective premise, something I never heard of before. And yeah, it really worked. I really enjoyed it.
It's really smart with that relay service. That's such a cool thing to focus on.
Yeah, it's a smart concept, something you never think about or even know existed, and just a cool use of something like that to introduce you.
But it's baked into like almost like a templated paranoia movie from the 70s. So it's such a simple thing with this really interesting point at the center of it. And yeah, I really loved it. I like Riz Ahmed too. Did you see The Sound of Metal?
Absolutely.
And he's so good in that. I
remember him going back to the night of that HBO miniseries.
Yeah.
He was so excellent in that.
Yep.
I just feel like everyone should go and watch that. He was so good in it.
Yeah.
So Weapons. So I meant to say this last week in preparation to going to see Weapons. I actually watched Barbarian for the first time. I'd never seen it before.
Oh, okay.
And it was fine. Like, I didn't think there was anything particularly great about Barbarian. I'll say that out of the gate. I thought it was fine, but it didn't feel like it was earth-shattering to me or particularly that different than things I'd seen before. I don't know. I thought it was a fine movie, but I didn't necessarily love it. So I was shocked at how good Weapons actually was. It just feels like a huge leap forward for him. So I was shocked at how effective it was. Like, I mean, it really kind of has you right from the get go, and it holds you. Really like the idea of telling the story from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And is yeah, I was really impressed with Weapons. I mean, everybody was talking about it. I know it was making money, but you never know. Uh, and especially with me in horror, but I don't really feel like it was, that much of a horror movie. It's
Right.
just a really intense, uh, you know, yeah, it's a really intense thriller almost. It definitely had me off kilter the whole time. There were a couple of scenes that were, I thought, unnecessarily bloody. There are a couple of things that happened in that movie where you're like, that was probably not necessary. But that's just a small quibble. I mean, obviously in his mind he's making a horror movie, so you got to keep it bloody. But
Yeah.
but everything else in it was really excellent. It was really well done. That's all I can say.
I'm so glad you liked it. I
Yeah.
really love it. I actually went to see it a second time, and um, it's man, it's just so good. Can you see Pedro Pascal in the Josh Brolin role because he was supposed to be that guy?
Yeah, I probably could.
Really?
But I think Josh Brolin is really effective. I think Josh Brolin's a better casting decision. But
Yeah.
I could probably see Pedro Pascal doing it. I guess. I mean, almost a little similar to Last of Us vibe. So maybe.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I think Josh Brolin is better in it.
He's
What I
so
like
good.
about Weapons 2 is that it drops you into the story and it takes you out of it at a point that's not totally resolved either.
Hmm.
Because I think that going on longer and kind of giving you the aftermath of things probably would lessen the impact of the movie.
Yeah.
So I think that even that's a really smart decision, just to kind of take you out of it when it does, so you don't linger on any of the aftermath, which may or may not be pretty in and of itself, but we don't really need to see that.
Right. Yeah. It like goes off the rails in the best way, and I feel like Barbarian kind of did that a little bit too at the end, but this is just it's so good, that ending. And I'll talk to you off mic about an alternative ending because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But uh, it, it goes from like 7 to 11 in like a minute.
Yeah, whereas Barbarian, you're right. Like, that's the thing. The end of Barbarian was okay. It was a bit much. I'm not sure how much I loved it. But it felt like the inevitable ending of the movie. But yeah, Weapons is much better even in that. Like, I think he learned a lot of lessons from making Barbarian. Because in some ways it's kind of very similar. It starts off in an almost domestic, like, simple kind of way, and
Yeah.
moves towards this really impending, terrible thing that is going to happen, but don't know what or why. Um, and yeah, so Weapon just feels like a leap forward in every way.
Yeah. And he really wears his influences on his sleeve in this. I mean, I see so much of so many directors that I really love. So it's, I
Yeah,
don't know if
even the
it's,
trick of following people, from behind, like that trick of when he films them facing forward or facing behind,
yeah.
which is a deliberate choice that gives you different perspectives depending on how he's doing it. Even those little things, like, that's just really smart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, watch Magnolia. That's, all over that film, and that's a huge influence on it. I was going to say that I don't know if I like it better than Sinners, but they're both very close for my movie of the year so far. And that has a lot of that too, with
Uh,
the following behind and from the front. So, um, yeah, just what a good year for Warner Brothers. They're really doing
Amazing.
pretty well after Mickey 17. So good for them. I more weapons and Sinners next year, hopefully. Uh, let's see. So I didn't see too much this week, but one thing I did go and catch is Caught Stealing, the new film from Darren Aronofsky,
Mhm.
starring Austin Butler. Um, I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. It's basically a Guy Ritchie film, 20 years after Guy Ritchie's making these movies. And it's kind of like a caper action comedy with a lot of quirky characters in it. It's not in England; it's in New York City. It's a period piece, which I really liked because they the set design is fantastic, and there's one point where there are a lot of shots where he's kind of like running across the screen from far away, and at one point he runs past Kim's Video. You remember Kim's Video? You know that
Yeah.
place? So I really love that they put that in there, and he kind of lingers on it a little bit, which I really liked. But yeah, it's kind of a fun, almost a mistaken identity film with a bunch of mob guys, and Austin Butler's really good in it. Everybody's really good in it. I did not expect something like this from Darren Aronofsky to land for me. And this is written by Charlie Houston, who wrote the book that it's based on. But Aronofsky, you know, I think of like Black Swan, or I think of Pi or The Wrestler, and there's no comedy in those films. But this really is like a tongue-in-cheek film, and he pulls it off pretty well. So I would say go see it in a theater if you can, because it's again, it's the kind of thing that you want to make sure sells tickets. So
Yeah, you're always 1 week ahead of me. I actually was going this week to go see it. So
okay, maybe I should just hold my reviews a week, because
there is 1 week. You're 1 week ahead of me all the time.
yeah, I go on Thursdays. So yeah, maybe I'll just hold off.
And I usually go on Tuesdays. That's my day.
Okay. Well, I'll start going on Tuesdays. Yeah. Yeah, because that's going to get redundant for listeners. I don't want to, I'd rather have a conversation, you know, so I'll do that. We should
We'll see.
coordinate
You
our
can let me know what you're
schedules.
going to see, and I can let you know if I'm going. So, but yeah, I am going to see Caught Stealing this Tuesday because Jackson wants to see it. So
Good. It's yeah, I think you'll like it. All right. Well, that's it for another episode. Thanks for joining us. Just to let you know, we are on YouTube now. So if you want to see our smiling faces, go to our channel. It's at Movie Throwdown Pod, and you can watch these episodes instead of just listening to them. So yeah, wherever you get them, go get them, please. Subscribe, like, leave a review. All those things really help us. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for listening. And we will see you next week when we're going to talk about John Frankenheimer's football film, or is it Black Sunday from 1977. So long.
As always, thanks for listening to the Weekly Movie Throwdown. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode, so be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And for even more from us, visit moviethrowdownpod.com or connect with us on social media. We're Movie Throwdown on Letterboxd and at Movie Throwdown Pod everywhere else.